Fun fact number 134. Um, Actually more a philosophical discussion, but whatever, I say what I say. Um, Changes, transitions, pivoting. Things I'm learning, things I'm seeing. I had some transitions, new things. Um, how did I put it? That's just changes and perspectives on changes. But so I was going through a time. My my job that I do is sporadic. Um, they don't always need me, and when they need me, they want me for everything and all the time. And then I schedule things like tests for other jobs, interviews for other jobs that are more permanent, or finally getting a doctor and trying to figure out my health issues and how I can keep my hair, feel better, whatever. Um, a lot of things. I'm trying to take care of myself better. That's one of the things. And I went to the doctor and they forgot about me. And I sat there for an hour until I finally said something that I had an anxiety attack. And I don't usually get anxiety attacks. I've had a few throughout my life, but this wasn't like as big of an issue as some of the other things that caused an anxiety attack. But I did have an anxiety attack. And then when I did go to work, um, again, I was supposed to be going to one place and I showed up and they said, we don't need you. We need you at another place. You need to go there. And it was a place I'd never been. And this was right after the other issue. And it was like these changes and transition as I'm getting older, it's much more difficult to change and transition. So, when something changes to, I'm really good at going with the flow, but like I'm paying you to do something, or you're paying me to do something and you don't know what you're doing, or you're forgetting me, or you're telling me things I already know and I'm paying you to tell me things I already know. I don't like doctors. I don't like dentists. I already have anxiety about that. But I really have to be brave and really build myself up to go. And then when something like that happens, it kind of just makes me go, why did I even come here? And I just want to walk out because I didn't want to be there in the first place. So when I went to work the other day, and I had a pretty good idea of at least where I was at and where the bathrooms were at and where I could put my lunch in the refrigerator and where I would take a break and who the people were there and stuff like that. They said, no, you're not here. You're going to be going someplace else. And I ended up going someplace else for 2 days that I'd never been. And it was okay, but it really wasn't my cup of tea. It was okay. And when I go back there, maybe, but not for any long period of time. Like if they really needed somebody and they needed me for a day, I probably would do it. But it's a feeling of safety and a feeling of being valued, I think. And there was a little bit of that there, but there was also a little bit of I'm the boss. Let me say something to you so you know I'm the boss. Um, didn't need that. I'm too old for that stuff. So it was okay. It was okay. Um, we'll see how the next ones go that I've signed up for. But I also was doing karaoke, and the bar lost some of its licensing, so they couldn't have sound that was too loud, and they had to close at 12 instead of 2, and a lot of things. And so my friend who's the KJ was like, well, we'll try a silent karaoke. So, and I went one time, and then they didn't even, he said they were going to be there, and they weren't there because it's a sports bar and there was a game and they didn't want to have to compete. And then, so nobody was there, and they were trying to start earlier, so there was more time for karaoke, but it was going to interrupt the game, so they canceled it. And I showed up thinking there was going to be something with a friend, and there was nothing. And we rushed over there from someplace else. So it was like, uh, but then the next time I went and I tried out the silent karaoke, and I'm like doing pros and cons and trying to figure out if I want to do this and thinking of other places we can go to karaoke. And then I can't, then there's nights I can't go because I'm working. And then, my gosh, just so many changes and so many transitions and so many things. Like, I go, I feel safe. I know who 90% of the people are gonna be. I know where the bathroom is. I know what kind of food and what kind of drink I can get there, and I know the bouncers and the bartenders or whatever, and the servers and the cooks, and there's a certain level of feeling safe, and then and knowing how something works. And then you go and they've changed everything, and you have to figure it out again, and you have to figure out if it's right for you. It's like a relationship. Like you have a boyfriend, and it seems like this is who he is, and this is how he operates, and you know you can feel safe, and you can these circumstances and what's going to happen and everything, and you kind of have an idea that this is a person that you can hang with. And then one day they just yell at you for at the top of their lungs for no reason, and you're like, I don't know if I'm going to go back. I may have to find another boyfriend, or may need to do some pros and cons here. It's like that whole red flag. Somebody who worked with the other day was talking, and she said, well, I'm just a walking red flag. And I said, that doesn't sound good, you know? And I said, well, I'm just a big child, big old child. Um, there's transitions are hard, change is hard. Now, I've been to the silent karaoke with the headphones 3 times, and I'm still kind of going back and forth on whether it's okay, but there's still a level of comfort there. And I feel like I can still get what I need out of the experience. There's some parts that I would like to have back, but they're not, as long as I get this much. But see, it's like I did that in my marriage. It's like I made excuses, and then I said this and I said that. And then it was like the more and more I accepted less, the less and less I was given, and the more I had to accept less. And so that's why I think, too, there's a little PTSD from that. And that's why changes and transitionings, and then having perspective on what you had and perspective on what was and what is a good idea to get some perspective and perspective and perception. Those words I use a lot because I think a lot of things depend on that. From your point of view, it may look like one thing, but then when you change when you change where you are, you will see it differently, and how you perceive it and your perspective can change. Like, I think in the changes that are happening in our world, some people think these changes are good, but they're really all about control and diminishing your rights and what you have, and these other people getting a lot more. And it's sad, but a lot of people think they're going to get something eventually, or at least this group over here will not be taking my jobs. Well, that group over there wasn't taking your jobs. You wouldn't do what they would do. And just because sometimes they educate themselves to try to improve their situation and work a little bit harder to try to get a better foothold on their life, and you think it's just supposed to be given to you, and you don't want to work that hard, doesn't mean they took your job. It means you gave it to them. So, but it's just some personal transitions and changes in my life, the new place I'm living in, the fact that my dad passed away in December, um, just changing your ideas. And that happens to me all the time. It's like I'll have an idea of how I can survive or flourish or find love. And I get disappointed a lot. And then I go with the flow but I still have expectations. So I still get disappointed. And now I think I'm still trying, but I'm also trying to be more grateful and more happy about what I have and what is. Um, and even if I want more or want something different, it doesn't mean I can't be happy in this moment with what is in front of me. So, perspective changes, transitions. Like with the karaoke, like there's one guy who, when he sang, had such a low voice you could barely hear him over the crowd and everything else. But with the headphones, you can really hear him, and he has a great voice. But then not everybody's wearing headphones, so not everybody's going to hear you. But then I found out I'm so friggin' loud that they can hear me anyway. How embarrassing. But what was the other thing? I can hear some people, but then when people are singing along with you out in the crowd, or woohooing, or going, yeah, yeah, I love that song, or whatever, you can't hear that because you got the headphones on to hear yourself sing. And sometimes you can't hear yourself sing for some reason when you get up to the mic. And then I realized with the studio mic, that's fixed. I can't move about as much, so sometimes he'll give me the handheld mic so I can move around a little bit. But and then I got the pool table right in front, and then people play pool. That's really annoying. But there's changes and transitions, and you get used to things. And some of the things you got to get used to are better. But I feel like sometimes it just diminishes the experience and diminishes your life if you keep accepting less and less rights and less of what you really want. So I think when it comes to dating, I'm gonna really be looking for what I want. Anyhow, fun fact or philosophical fact, whatever you want to call it, PF or FF, is changes and perspectives and transitioning and pivoting is something that I'm learning with teaching, as a teacher or as a sub or whatever, when you walk in cold to a place, um, and you have lesson plans and all that stuff, that sometimes the day doesn't go that way, and the principal didn't tell you they're having half your class missing in the middle of the day for an assembly, and the other half could be missing later for special programming. So you can't teach the way you intended to teach that way, so you're going to have to pivot and replan in the moment, pivoting on the spot. So learn how to pivot, but don't diminish who you are and don't accept less. And try your perspective and your perception from different angles every once in a while. Ciao, guys.